Hi everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as we discuss a share price plummet as confidence in a guitar, as confidence and rumour grows around Sir Jim doing a deal with the Glazers. The market reacts in a very strong way. Clearly, it's not just fans that don't want it, it's the business markets that worry about it as well. We'll also be talking about the goalkeeper situation. 2 goalkeeper stories coming in relation to Manchester United. We'll talk about both of those as well. And also, as it says on the thumbnail, Harry Kane deal likely, but it might not be the deal you think. Manchester United are facing up to what could be a very big barrier in getting Harry Kane to Manchester United. So lots to talk about. And also what I think is going to be the best part of this video, and I don't normally signpost anything, what I think is going to be the best part of this video is instead of opinion, we're going to look at the facts. We're going to look at the facts because there's people I respect who are now going, you know what, I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe might be a good option for Manchester United. There are people saying that it would be a nightmare for Manchester United. I think we need to cut through the rubbish because you cannot base your opinion on guesswork. You've got to try and base it on facts. And there's a lot of facts out there about what Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to do with Manchester United. And there's a lot of fans out there that are backing Sir Jim who are doing it on guesswork. Like, well, he's not stupid. He will get rid of Joel and Avram in the future. Completely ignoring the fact that Joel and Avram aren't stupid either and actually own the club at the moment. So we'll dive into that. The links to American investors who tried to bankroll the Super League, who are now going to bankroll Ineos. You know, we'll look at all that and we'll look at the positives and the negatives, because what I find quite frustrating is that I read a few comments yesterday in relation to what we were talking about last night, quite a passionate show last night, and there was a few people out there who are saying that, oh, look at Goldbridge trying to divide the fan base again. Well, I'm not trying to divide the fan base, I'm trying to put my opinion out there and everyone else has their own opinion, but I'm actually glad that the fan base is divided on this, because if we were all in agreement, we'd be sheep. And as for not liking the idea, some people I think actually want Sir Jim because I'm concerned about it. That's thick. That's just basic thickness. If there is a bridge over a river that's got crocodiles on it in it, and I walk over the bridge, are you going to swim across because you don't like me? You don't have to like me, but I'm giving you the concerns. And people go, well, Goldbridge thinks that, so I'm going to swim across the river with the crocodiles. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And also, to those people who are who are apathetic, and apathy means you're not saying anything. I feel guilty, and I think a lot of United fans feel guilty, that when we were first taken over by the Glazers, there wasn't that much opposition to it. And the heroes who were opposed to it are the real legends of this fan base, because they saw it coming right from the start and, were very vocal about it. But unfortunately, the vast majority of the fan base didn't do anything. I'm not going to sit back this time and be one of those people who sat back and did nothing back then. The reality is I'm not going to sit back on guesswork. I'm not going to sit back and go, let's wait and see. I'm going to vocalise my opposition to it. And then in 5 years' time, when it all goes tits up, I can say with everybody else, well, look, I was vocally against it at the time. The rest of the people who yet again sat back and went, well, let's wait and see what happens, they can swim in the shit that is. And if we get it wrong, then the people who are positive for it can say they got it right. But I think you've got to look at the actual facts, and we will look at that. We will look at the concerns, and we will go through it in a very pragmatic way, positives and negatives. But we'll do that in a few minutes, because I think that's worthwhile. But you know what? These people who say, oh, they're trying to divide the fan base, I mean, is that not what democracy is, and the right to have freedom of speech? I mean, if we were all bloody rats following the Pied Piper, we'd be lost. Surely the whole point of anything is to have an opinion on it and generate debate. I just think people are just lost in their own hate, that they can't actually form opinion for themselves. They just jump on the opposite to what they don't like. Anyway, let's get into it. We're not robots, exactly, Brandon. We're going to talk about that because there's some interesting parts about it, none more so that the share price for Manchester United has dropped. We'll revisit this in a minute, but effectively Manchester United's share price this morning is $18, just over $18. On the 14th of April, so a couple of days ago, it was $22, and on the 24th of March, it was $24. So it's dropping. It's dropping. It's currently at $18. It's not been that low since really sort of well, it's been it's dropped quite severely. It's dropped quite severely. However, what I would say is the day before they announced that we were for sale, it was down as low as $13. So it's still very high compared to it was before the Glazers said they were going to sell. But it's dropping, and it's dropping quite severely. And I think that shows the market confidence is dropping in the Glazers. And they're probably feeling exactly what you feel. You know, the business markets are very different to the fans. The share price is driven by business people. Obviously, fan opinion is driven in a very different way. But the fact that the business markets are starting to lose confidence in the Manchester United brand now says everything, because there was a lot of confidence and there was a lot of increase because it looked like the Glazers were going to sell, Man United were going to get a full sale, and that's quite exciting to buy shares in Manchester United because they could become a big football club again. Well, obviously the business markets are looking at what is about to happen or what could happen, and they're going, yeah. So look, it's not just fans, it's business people as well. They're looking at this and they're going, this isn't a full sale of Manchester United. This is a bloody con job. They were never for sale. This is just a scam. And that's why the price drop is dropping, because people are losing confidence. Anyway, let's come back to that in a minute, because there's quite a hefty section to get into there. We're going to start off just with a little bit of transfer news, because, of course, Manchester United have got a game tomorrow. We've got an Erik ten Hag press conference at lunchtime. But there's a few stories to go into. First of all, it's coming out from, in relation to Harry Kane, that Manchester United are very much still in for Harry Kane and do like the idea of signing him, but they're becoming more and more aware of how difficult this deal will be, to the extent that they are considering other targets as more likely than Harry Kane. Why is this? Well, it's a culmination of things, really, and none of it's to do with who the owner is. I personally think if we get Sir Jim, we'll buy Harry Kane. I think if we get Althani, we could buy Harry Kane. So I don't think this is actually exclusively to do with Glazers, Sir Jim or Althani. I think Harry Kane could sign in any scenario. The problem that Manchester United have got is the obvious problem that Manchester United and Spurs, it would be protracted. You're dealing with Daniel Levy. I mean, somebody said last night, we'll never get Kane anyway, because if Sir Jim gets hold of the club, Althani will buy Spurs and then we'll never get Kane. I think that's a bit far-fetched. I don't see that happening this summer. But what I do see happening is that Spurs will reluctantly sell Kane eventually, but it will take all summer, and they'll want huge money. And Man United won't want to spend huge money, so it will go all the way to the end of August, like we've said. That is a problem. But another fly in the ointment is that although that is going to make it very difficult and could be a reason why Man United move away, there is growing belief and confidence that Harry Kane could sign a new deal at Spurs. He won't do it at the moment until he knows who the new manager is, but there is growing speculation that he will sign and not sign. He will consider signing a new deal. Now, that is quite big in itself, and that's a major blow for Ten Hag and Manchester United if they want Harry Kane, because they have to work on the theory that Harry Kane absolutely doesn't want to stay at Spurs, and then they get on with the long, protracted battle with Spurs, always knowing that Kane wants to leave. But this new angle is that actually Harry Kane is quite agreeable to talk to Spurs, look at what the project is, who the manager's going to be, and potentially sign a new contract. Well, if that's the case, Manchester United have to just step away, because even if Harry Kane is like, I want to leave, he won't say it publicly, of course, but even if Harry Kane is saying to Man United, I want to come to you, crack on, and I'll tell them privately I want to go, that will still take ages. It's going to take ages, yeah? But if Harry Kane's sort of like, well, I might sign a new deal at Spurs, United can't get involved in that. They can't do a De Jong. They can't spend all summer chasing somebody who actually might want to stay. So it could be a very significant blow in the Harry Kane to Spurs deal. And that would surprise me, because I've always felt that this was a logical deal for everybody, but we'll have to wait and see. Hello, Mark. I live in Australia on a place called Lord Howe Island. Look it up and let me know what you think. Great show so far. Guitar is in, Glazers out, says Sam. Thank you very much. I honestly don't see us going anywhere, but administration under Radcliffe. Only so much debt we can take on, and I can easily see top 6 being out of reach, says Cyber Spider. I watched a really interesting programme on Paramount Plus last night about the Premier League. It was all, and that particular episode was about Leeds. If you don't think a club can go out of debt, can be in big trouble very, very quickly, look at that. I mean, I don't think it would happen with Manchester United, though. Shane Collins says, organising protests against Radcliffe taking over United could deter him from taking over. Time is key, though. What do you think of that approach, says Shane? I don't think there would be protests against Sir Jim. Faz put a tweet out this morning saying, why are there banners saying no to Qatar, but there's no banners saying no to Sir Jim. And I just think it's fundamentally, I think it just comes down to nationality. I do. I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a local guy, billionaire, English, and Al Thani is from Qatar in the Middle East. And I think, stereotypically, people find it easier to put their banners up about stuff like that than they do about someone who's a local guy. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just don't think we would see no to Sir Jim banners and stuff like that. I just don't think the fan base is ready to do that. And you can reason and make your own reasons why that is, but realistically, I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe's a likeable guy. I'd be a hypocrite if I said I hate the guy or I think he's an idiot. Well, I don't hate anybody anyway, but I don't like what he's doing. I have to throw him into the same category as the Elliott Group and the Glazers because he's funding the Glazers to stay. But I don't dislike the guy. I saw somebody saying last night, they were saying, real fans are Glazers out and Goldbridge is Qatar in. And I'm like, jog on. I can't deal with these people because they just don't listen. I have constantly said that this is not about being Qatar in. Qatar represent a Full Sail. They're the only horse in the race, so you've got to back it. They're the only people who represent a Full Sail. There is nobody else doing a Full Sail. So of course, technically, we're all Qatar in because they're the only ones representing a Full Sail. But it's far bigger than that, and it's been going on for longer. Full Sail and Glazers out is what we are as a fan base. There's no little alleyways off. No, I don't know a fan that was like sitting on the fence and then went, oh, there's Qatar, I'm Qatar in. It was always Glazers out and Full Sail. That's what we're talking about here. And that's why, if you want Sir Jim, the first thing I'm going to say to you is, so you're not Glazers out then? I've seen your tweets. I've seen your banners. You're not Glazers out. In my opinion, you're not Glazers out if you want Sir Jim. You're not. I don't know what you're doing. You're guessing that the future's bright. You're guessing that it might work, but you're certainly not Glazers out. Oh, but he'll get rid of them in 3 years. Will he? Will he? Have you got that in writing? Has he done an interview about that? Or are you just guessing? What are you guessing for? Why are some of our fans guessing about the future with a guy they don't even bloody know? What are you guessing for? I don't get that. If the bidders have signed non-disclosure agreements, why do we keep getting leaked info from the media outlets as Zero? Footballers are not meant to speak to other clubs when they're under contract for somebody else, but it always happens, mates. It's just the way of the world, I'm afraid. Anyway, we'll come back to that in a minute because I want to just get through some of the transfer news because it is a news show. So that's the latest with Harry Kane. There is a bit of a concern now that he is open to signing a new deal with Spurs. He's certainly open to talking to Spurs and their future plans. At United, we're already going to face a very long summer trying to get a player that wanted out. They're now facing a very long summer with a player that might want to stay. And this is now pricking up the ears of United going, this might be a deal that we just avoid. Let's wait and see. Tam says, would it be fair to say you're guessing about Qatar? What am I guessing about Qatar? That they want to buy us and they want to clear the debt. There was an official statement, mate. I don't think that's guesswork. That's evidence. I don't know what I'm guessing about Qatar. They want to buy the club and they want to clear the debts. They want to buy all of the club. That's not guesswork. That's an official line from that group. Where's your official line that Sir Jim's going to get rid of the Glazers in 3 years? What's his official line on how much he's going to buy the club and why he can't buy all of it? And where's the debt going? You haven't got one. You're guessing. The interesting thing about the Al Thani bid is that their statement was very short but very clear. We're going to spend a lot of money. We're going to clear the debt and I'm going to buy all the club. End of statement, basically. So Jim's statement was, I'm going to put the Manchester back in Manchester United. Maybe this Sir Jim offer is another Glazer tactic to have Qatar offer them more than 6 billion, says Mehdi. Mark, we don't want that Judas to take over the club and keep that cancer in the club. There's a reason why the fans of Nice want him out, says Victor. So what I'm learning from Leeds and the Glazers is that the more Americans involved, the higher the debts, says Parser. Well, we'll come back to that in a minute. I just want to do this final bit of sort of transfer news. So this is going to be fun. So Manchester United in the last 24 hours have been linked to 2 goalkeepers. Sommer, who apparently has a gentleman's agreement with Bayern that when Manuel Neuer comes back and is number one, he can leave. Now, we were linked to Sommer, the Swiss goalkeeper, back in January. Now, Sommer's a good goalkeeper. I don't dislike Sommer. I do think he's a good goalkeeper, and I do think he's capable of coming in and challenging De Gea. The problem with Sommer is that there's an age problem there. I mean, he's no spring chicken. He's not a goalkeeper for the next 10 years. Even if he took De Gea's spot, which I don't know whether he would, I think he could challenge De Gea, but they're both around the same sort of age. Now, the goalkeeper that caught my attention, and I don't know loads about him, is Bart Verbruggen, who is an Anderlecht goalkeeper. He has made his debut for the Dutch, obviously Dutch, Ten Hag link. Now, interestingly, he was a player that nearly went to Burnley. Obviously, Vincent Kompany, I think, was managing Anderlecht, so may have known a lot about him. I know next to nothing about this player, so I can't say, I've been watching him for ages. But I did find a quote from his Anderlecht coach, Brian Riemer, who said that Bart plays with the charisma of a goalkeeper who has already played more than 300 matches at the highest level. He's also seen as, I think he's 6'4", and he's seen as a modern goalkeeper. There's a lot of interest in him. Obviously, he's still very young, but he is just starting out. I mean, I personally think that this, if you're asking me whether I'd prefer that guy or Sommer, I go with that guy. What's his name? Verbruggen, or however you pronounce it. Because that's the type of goalkeeper I think. I call it the Lafont option. Basically, a young goalkeeper with loads of potential who has the ability, and is already playing first team football, to come to Manchester United, learn the ropes alongside De Gea, whilst also challenging him and eventually taking his spot. That, to me, is far more appealing than Sommer, who may well take De Gea's spot, and certainly will challenge him, but they're around the same age, and that just doesn't work. Dean Henderson and De Gea didn't work because Dean Henderson was never shutting up about wanting to be number one. There was no working together. There was no passing of the baton, as you might call it. Whereas I think if you brought a goalkeeper in like this Burt guy, he's going to want to learn the ropes at United with De Gea, and slowly but surely I think there would be a passing of the baton with De Gea working alongside him. That's what I've always wanted. So do I think we'll sign that goalkeeper in particular? I don't know. I really don't. We've been linked to so many goalkeepers, it's ridiculous. But I do find that sort of thing quite intriguing. Of course, I know next to nothing about this goalkeeper, and I'm going off the fact that, there's a few clubs that quite like him. He nearly went to Burnley. He looks like a really good goalkeeper for the future. But the key things for me is if we're going to buy a goalkeeper, please make them be a goalkeeper that can play out from the back, because if they can't, then we're just back where we are now with these fans that are obsessed with it. I was reading a piece from the Manchester Evening News. In fact, to be fair, it was written by Luckhurst, who, let's be honest, has completely been against De Gea for ages. I don't think he can say anything subjective about David De Gea, because he just has never wanted De Gea in goal, which is fine. That's his opinion. He wanted Henderson, and he probably wants someone else now. But I was reading the article, and it was talking about David De Gea has made the joint most mistakes leading to goals in the Premier League this season. And I was like, well, that's all fine and well, but I can throw a stat at you as well. We've only conceded 8 goals at home all season. We're the only club in single figures for goals conceded at home all season. And 25% of those 8 goals were conceded in the first game of the season. And we've gone on and played nearly another 18. So, we've got a very, very good defensive record beyond 3 or 4 games where we got battered. So, we have got to bring a goalkeeper in, and I'd like it to be a younger profile keeper. I feel like Sir Jim would be a similar owner to Daniel Levy, says Lewis. I'll come off it. If only people with tunnel vision and are oblivious to the way the world runs will want Sir Jim. Qatar promises a complete buyout and gives us a restart that this club has needed for years, says Ashish. And had a horrible feeling for weeks that we are going to let top 4 go. Saturday's game is massive. We need to get over the line. Games are a lot tougher than most think. Easiest game is away one, says Aram. Yeah, it's a massive game tomorrow, and I tell you what, it's felt like a long week since losing to Brighton and West Ham, hasn't it? We have to respond tomorrow. I mean, I did my preview last night, but we have to respond tomorrow. If we lose tomorrow or we draw tomorrow, it's going to get really concerning. Right, let's do this. I want to do this, and I want to talk about this in as much evidence-based way as possible, with as much... I basically wanted to do a section in the show that was just people can make their own mind up and give you as much of what we know, and a lot of it we don't know. A lot of it is guesswork, but a lot of it about what we know, and a lot of it about, you know, why I have concerns. Okay, so what if Qatar support the Super League, says Steve? I mean, that's guesswork, Steve. All I'm saying to you, Steve, is like everybody who wants a gym, they can't offer me anything other than guesswork. Like, they can offer me no evidence at all. They're obviously starting to think Sir Jim might be a good owner of the club, but everything they say is based on guesswork. I can't deal with guesswork, because this is what happened in 2005. People went, let's wait and see what happens with the Glazers. And 18 years later, it's been a bloody nightmare. You cannot just be a casual objector. You cannot just sit back and go, let's wait and see. You've got to be vocal about what you want. And I can't advise people which way to go. You go which way you want to go. But at least go on the evidence. Do not assume a billionaire that you don't know is going to do things that you want him to do. For example, the big one I keep hearing this all the time. Let's get into it. There was a red flag in Sir Jim's statement saying he viewed himself as the club's long-term custodian. Is he not expecting custody in the short term, says Glenny Boy. Well, I wasn't going to mention that, Glenny, but I also think in that very statement you're talking about, he mentioned something about football in this country is going through regulation, and you know, you would want Manchester United to be at the forefront of that. You wonder what that regulation is that they want. I'm Qatar in, mate, and I loved the passion last night, says Steve. Thank you very much. Morning, Mark. Just to thank you for all the hard work and Glazers and their supporters out, says Pauline Brooks. So I think that the first place to sort of start with this is to say that with Sir Jim and Al Thani, anybody can, you know, ultimately it feels like they're the two choices that we have here. The share price has dropped massively. That's without doubt this morning. That's not fans. That's the business world really concerned about the future of Manchester United if the Glazers are staying with Sir Jim. The big concern is the Glazers there, not Sir Jim. If Sir Jim was buying all of the club, the share price wouldn't drop. People might prefer Al Thani, but if Sir Jim was buying all of the club, I think people would just go, right, it's probably not super wealth, but let's see what he can do. The concern is he's only buying half of the club and the Glazers are staying. And that's why in the business world, the price is dropping, and that's why in the fan world, people are concerned. One of the big myths I think that people who are pro Sir Jim have, or want to give Sir Jim a chance have, is that they say things like this: he might be only buying half of the club. And we're going to deal in fact here and evidence on what we have. Many people who are trying to give Sir Jim a chance are saying he's not stupid, he's a fantastic businessman, and he's clearly going to get Joel and Avram out in the next 3 years. And I sit there, and other people with a brain sit there and go, we are saying this publicly. What do you think Joel and Avram are doing? Snorkeling off Miami, not listening or reading the news. How is Sir Jim going to blindside Joel and Avram when you're talking about it publicly? Do you think they don't realise he might try and blindside them? And also, you're forgetting that you're assuming that Joel and Avram are thick, and that they, who own the club now, are going to sign a contract with Sir Jim that lets him get rid of them in 3 years with no power for them. How naive are these people? How naive are these fans that think Sir Jim is going to put something in place that forcibly removes Joel and Avram in 3 years' time? Who signs that, and what would that be? Because Joel and Avram can leave now with 700 million in their pocket each, like their sisters and brothers. Why would they stay for 3 years with no dividends and no power to take 700 million pounds in 3 years? There's no value to that. If they're going to get forced out in three years, they're going to be getting $1 billion each instead of 700. Where's that $1 billion each coming? What I mean is, I'm not giving you the exact figure, but they are not stupid. If they're waiting for 3 years, and I don't think they're waiting for 3 years, I personally think they're waiting for 10, 15 years, but let's pretend that this guesswork, that Joel and Avram will be gone in 3 years, what's the incentive for them waiting 3 years? You know, 700 million pounds there. If you put 700 million pounds in a bank for 3 years, you'll want money on it. If Joel and Avram are staying, they will be guaranteed more money. So let's say it's $1 billion each instead of 700 million. Where is that money coming from? Oh, well, he's loaded, they say. He's loaded. Ineos has got loads of money. Okay, this is the second point that worries me. If Sir Jim is just going to find 2 billion to get rid of Joel and Avram in 3 years' time, why doesn't he do it now? Well, I don't know why he doesn't do it now, but he definitely could if he wanted to, because Ineos is loaded. But why is he not doing it now? And where is that money going to come from? Is it going to come within the club? Is it going to be debt? And also, if Ineos has got all this money, why is it borrowing money from America to buy 50% of the club now? I know that debt's not going on to the club, but why are they borrowing money now? There's too much guesswork around a future with Sir Jim and the Glazers. And from a business sense and a common sense, it makes no sense. Like, people are going, well, I think Sir Jim would be a good owner because he's from Manchester. He's got the club at heart, and he's a clever guy. I'm convinced he's got a plan to get rid of Joel and Avram in 3 years. And I'm like, you're saying this publicly. Do you not realise that Joel and Avram are quite clever as well? And they could just take 700 million now from Al Thani. So why aren't they doing it? What have they been promised in 3 years' time or 10 years' time? And where's that money going to come from? And this is these things. I think are things that people should really consider, because indeed this is not speculative. Ineos will use debt facilities provided by Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan to aid in their bid to buy Manchester United. That's a statement from The Athletic in February. Ineos are going to borrow money from Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan to buy Manchester United, and they're only buying 50% of it. So where are they going to get the money from to buy the Glazers out for their 20% in 3 years? And also, why are we not talking about the New York Stock Exchange, who own 30% as well? They're borrowing money to buy half of the club. And they're overvaluing the club as well, because they're buying half of the club for 3 billion. So they're valuing the club at 6. Which means if they want to buy the rest, they've got to find another 3 billion from somewhere. Where is all this money going to come from? The debt is staying at the club that's already there. So we've got somebody who's going to buy this football club, half of it, by borrowing through his business Ineos, which is fine, but keeping the debt that's already there, keeping the Joel and Avram there that have caused the problems over the last 10 years, and 30% with the New York Stock Exchange. Where is all this money going to come from to have more than 50% in the future? It's not coming from revenue, and this is something else I wanted to talk about. I know this is quite technical, but it's not based on opinion, it's based on what we know. Lots of people say Man United do not need state funding to be successful. Please tell me, beyond a naive nonsense statement, why that is. Manchester United can compete with Manchester City without state funding. Please tell me this one, because I'm quite interested in financials and definitely interested in football. So I would love to know how Manchester United can be run successfully from this position. A club that's basically got accrued debt of $1 billion. A club that has barely made £100 million net profit for the last 6 years. Like, we make about 600 million a year, but when you take away wages and everything else, we barely ever make £100 million profit. So how the hell are we going to... And we've got to build a stadium. We've got to buy players. How is a club that's in debt and barely makes £100 million profit a year going to be sustainably successful competing against Man City, who are bloody loaded, and Newcastle and everybody else? How is it going to go? And people say debt, but the debt eats into the revenue. So if United make £600 million a year and we're only making 100 million profit from that, it's not just wages, it's not just running costs, there's debt repayments in there as well. Debt has to be repaid. We are never going to be self-sufficient without huge investment, clearance of the debt. It's just not going to work. So sustainability, I think, is possible. And this is where I spin a positive. I have to spin a positive here. What do I think happens to Manchester United if Sir Jim and the Glazers get hold of it? I think there are initial wins. I think you can buy Harry Kane. I think you can buy De Jong. I think you can start building a stadium. Those wins that fans like, I can imagine them happening in the first few years. I think you can get fan groups on the board. I think you can engage with fans more. I think all these things can happen. And, I'm not here to say that can't happen. It can. And I think if Sir Jim gets hold of the club with the Glazers, you'll see more interaction with fan groups. Maybe not this one. But who cares? You can't be honest if you get into bed with them. You can't be honest. Let's be honest. So I'd rather have that. But I suppose the way I would say it is this. I think under Sir Jim, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that we could become a club that consistently finishes fourth. But we will never finish first, because we just cannot. We cannot join that party. You cannot join that party saddled with debts and not making the revenue that's significant enough. You can't do it. You just can't do it. That is why the word super wealth, which is a dirty word, gets mentioned so much. So I think best case scenario with Sir Jim and the Glazers is that, you spend a couple of £100 million every summer. You start to rebuild Old Trafford. You have better relationships with the fans. I think all those things happen. And that might please a lot of our fans, and that might work. But the red flags for me is the debt will remain. So Jim will only ever own 50%, because where's he going to get the money from to buy the rest? And even if he did get the money to buy the rest, he hasn't got the money desire to go and spend like Man City or Newcastle will. And therefore, we might do a few PR things that make us a top four club, but we will never be a winner of the Champions League or the Premier League. It just can't happen. There's just not a sustainability model there. This is a very complicated situation for Manchester United, says Rory. Mark, with all the potential additional debt being loaded onto the club, is this not something the FA would get involved with? No, Ryan, because they'll hold the debt on Ineos, not on the club. The current debt has already been allowed by the FA. It just won't increase. In our dreams, maybe. Sad times. Glazers out, says King. I never believed the Glazers truly wanted to sell from the get-go. If I have the choice between Radcliffe and the Glazers or Glazers only, I would welcome Sir Jim begrudgingly, says Charlie. And I think, look, I actually find that, I don't know how everybody else feels, but I actually find that opinion really sad. And I am hearing it more and more. It's such a defeatist attitude. And I'm seeing it more and more. And it's an opinion, and I have to accept it, but I find it really, really frustratingly disappointing. I'm seeing more and more United fans going, I don't see what the problem is. I don't know why people are moaning. If you'd said to somebody a year ago, you can have the Glazers or you can have 50% Sir Jim and the Glazers, we'd all have bitten our hand off. And I'm like, there's an analogy for this. It's a bit like saying, a year ago, I couldn't walk. And now, that doesn't even work. I'm trying to think of it. Basically, you're just basically, well, all right. A year ago I had no arms. Now I've got a right arm, but somebody's offering you both. Yeah, but it's better to have one arm than no arm. Well, of course it bloody is, but somebody's offering you both. I don't get that mentality. It's just a different shade of crap, isn't it? Let's be honest. And it's not, I understand what Charlie's saying, but it's not something to be happy about. A year ago we were fully owned by the Glazers and now we're half owned by the Glazers. That's got to be an improvement, but that's not what's on offer. That's not what people want. We want a full sale. We want the Glazers out. We don't want half out. And then you get people saying, but it's the journey to removing them. We're on the journey to removing them. You're doing guesswork. You're guessing. You're not in these meetings. You're not talking to the Rain Group with Ineos and Sir Jim. You're not party to these meetings. You are spreading complete and utter nonsense guesswork. You've got no idea what the future is. It's not the road to removing the Glazers. They could stay for the next fucking 50 years. They might hand it on to their kids in the 20%. You don't know what the future is. But people are like, well, it's better than nothing. It's not better than nothing because nothing was on the table. The Glazers gone was on the table. And they've refused it to stay at this club. Fans act like they've got some part in this. Oh, well, a year ago it was fully owned by the Glazers and now half of it won't be. So, I'll take that. It's got nothing to do with you. You will take whatever they deliver. That's the whole point. We're all just victims in this Glazer ownership, which has destroyed this football club for nearly 20 years, and it's going to continue. They've still got a grip on the club. People think that Sir Jim's going to own 50% and Joel and Avram with their 20 are going to stay in America and not be involved. They'll be on the bloody board. They're going to be on the board, involved. So I might be in a minority here, but I refuse to sit here and say, oh, well, it's better than it was a year ago. They're still here. That's the absolute for me. They're either here or they're not here. Well, they don't own all of it now. Are they still here? Are they still here? Yes. Well, there you go. It's not Glazers out then, is it? Manchester United is a global team. While I understand why some England fans want Jim, understand that Qatar gives the club enough ammunition to make the club great again. Don't we want to start winning more titles and sooner, says Ashish. Nice can't compete with PSG. Sir Jim apologised, say we can't compete with Newcastle, City and Chelsea loaded with cash. Arsenal, Liverpool ahead, not even with Qatar. We will compete every year for sure, not with Sir Jim, says DK. And how poor are these new keeper press leaks? The club has not changed at all, not protecting a legend before what is essentially 5 cup finals, says Nick J. There was something else I wanted to talk to you about. What was it? Oh yeah, somebody said, I've just took a few notes here. This is just reacting to some of the stuff I've read in the last 24 hours where I wanted to just sort of come at it. I feel that we are in a position where you've got facts against guesswork. I think whether you like it or not, and you don't have to like it, Al Thani and Qatar bid is based on fact. Buy all the club, clear the debt, spend money. Sir Jim's bid is based on guesswork. There is no supporter of Sir Jim that can come out and tell us what his plan is, other than what has been leaked to the press. He'll buy half the club, he'll keep the debt, and he wants to put the Manchester back in Manchester United. So I've got a guy who's going to clear the debt, buy all of the club, and spend loads of money, and I've got a guy who's going to buy half the club, keep the debts, and put the Manchester back in Manchester United. Okay, that's basically that's my choice, is it? We've also got the question of, can Manchester United compete with Sir Jim and the Glazers? And I think the easiest way to look at this is you've got a limitless club in Manchester City and Newcastle because their wealth is limitless, and you've got a limited club in Manchester United because it's basically bought by debt. The Glazers bought it on debt. Sir Jim's going to buy it on debt through Ineos. There's 20% with the Glazers. There's 50% with Jim. There's 30% with the New York Stock Exchange. It's a brand. It's a business. It's got multiple fingers in many holes, and ultimately, it has to please all those people. The Glazers have to be pleased. Sir Jim has to be pleased, and the New York Stock Exchange has to be pleased. So you've got Manchester City in the hands of Abu Dhabi, who are absolutely loaded and just want to be the best club in the world, and then you've got Manchester United, who are in debt, who need to spend loads of money and have 3 separate owners with different percentages and different needs. Who's going to be more successful? One club owned by one set of people who are rich, or one club owned by 3 separate people pulling in 3 different directions with 3 different motives and in debt? Deal with that one. Another positive as well is, I think if Sir Jim gets hold of the club with the Glazers, you will see things such as Harry Kane, you will see a stadium plan, you will see Paul Mitchell brought in as director of football. I think you will see quick wins that fans will like in the short term that may paper over the cracks of the long term. So I do think we will see those. So Jim part ownership would be like Willy Wonka going into business with Augustus Gloop and Mike TV. Qatar in, says Phil. And Jonathan, thank you very much. There was something else I wanted to talk about. I completely forgot him. No, I think we covered it. Don't need state funding. One of the other things I was asked quite a lot was, why don't you like Sir Jim? And the answer is, I do like Sir Jim. I've never disliked Sir Jim. I don't know Sir Jim. I don't know Al Thani. 1 minute. I'm going to have to get... That was just Sir Jim at the door. He says, I've had enough of you. I said to Jim, go. But no, I don't dislike Sir Jim, and I find the whole thing quite tiring, as much as I think most of you do as well. It's just like, my conscience is clear, and I'm sure most of your conscience is clear. I mean, one of the funny things is, let's just take it down a comedic level for a moment before we take it to a serious level. One of the most amazing things that have been levelled against the United stand over the years is that we're only in it to feed toxicity, and when Man United lose, we get more views. It's not actually true, but if that was the case, then really we would be Sir Jim in, because Sir Jim with the Glazers, I think there's going to be plenty more bad results. I think if you get Qatar and Al Thani, you could end up like Man City, where you win most games. So, you know, I find that quite funny, because you can't win. You know, when I say, let's sell Scott McTominay, you're toxic. When I say, let's back David De Gea, you're toxic. I mean, ultimately what I'm trying to say is that people just don't like your opinion if it's different to theirs. But if I wanted to, you know, if I wanted Manchester United to fail, the best bet is to go down with the Glazers option, whatever that is. So that includes Sir Jim. If I want Man United to be successful, then you go down the super wealth option. It's as simple as that. But it's not about who I like and who I dislike. There was a very intelligent comment a few minutes ago about, but you can't tell us that Al Thani doesn't want to take us into a Super League. I can't. I can't. There are dangers. There are dangers with the Qatar bid. I mean, look at the way PSG has been run. I don't like that Galactico model. You build a team. There are dangers with Al Thani and Qatar, but they're dangers that, look at Todd Bowley. He's wasted so much money over the last year, but they'll keep spending until they get it right. Under the Glazers, you haven't got that leeway. You haven't got the ability to right your mistakes, because you're in so much debt already, you know, and it's all jobs for the boys. So look, when people say, oh, you just want Qatar and you don't like Sir Jim, I think for most of the last 6 months we've tried to make it not about Sir Jim versus Qatar and what's best for Manchester United, and that's what drives me, and that's what my thing is. And as I said, I think we've been through quite a few things in the last sort of half an hour, and I can't find anybody online or in the community or in the press who can tell me why Sir Jim with the Glazers is anywhere near even a hint of a good idea, because it's all subjective guesswork. They've got no facts. They've got no information. They're just guessing that he'll get rid of Joel and Avram in 3 years. He'll buy the rest of the club. We'll win the Premier League. We'll win the Champions League. And as soon as you go, how the hell is this going to happen? They're going, wow, you just want Qatar. Well, no, I want a full sale, actually. I want a full sale. It's not my fault that the only horse in the race for full sale is Qatar. I want a full sale and I want the Glazers out. But you are detracting from what I've just asked you. Why are you not terrified about Sir Jim buying half the club with the Glazers? How can you not see the very blatant problems? You know, you think he's going to buy Joel and Avram out in 3 years. Where's he going to get that couple of billion from then? He can't even find a couple of billion more to buy the full club now. Why can't Jim? This is a really good question. Why can't Sir Jim buy all the club now? Why can he only buy 3 billion of it? If he's so rich, why can't he find another couple of billion? Why has he had to do a deal behind everybody's back with the Glazers? You know, if he'd not done that deal, it would be him and Al Thani bidding around 5 billion. The best bid wins. Why can't he find another 2 billion? Does that not concern you? Why can he not find another 2 billion? And yet you think he's going to find another 2 billion in 3 years to get rid of Joel and Avram. He'd only owned 70% then. He's still got the New York Stock Exchange. Where's the money coming from for the stadium? Where's the money coming from for the players? Does it not concern you that he can only buy 50%? And that 50% is being bankrolled by Ineos, who are borrowing it. there's just so many red flags. There's so much guesswork out there. But you'll get people who just go, I don't like Qatar. I don't like Qatar. So I want Sir Jim. I don't like Qatar. I know I'm Glazers in, and you are Glazers in. You are Glazers in if you want Sir Jim. I'm sorry. Technically you are. Of course you are. They're staying. Of course you are. How can't you figure that one out? At least settle your conscience instead of hiding from it. If you want Sir Jim, you want the Glazers because they're going to stay. Wow, yeah, but they're not going to be as powerful. Are they going to stay? They're not going to be as powerful. How do you know? Well, they're just not. They're not going to be on the board, are they? Well, no. Yeah, Sir Jim knows what he's doing. They own the club. They're selling it to him. Do you think they're going to be on the board? Guesswork. You can't work off guesswork. I think it's terrifying. And I think fans are right to be worried about if it happens. And I think if you want to know how the business world thinks about it, look at that share price. It's like a slide. It's like a log flume. It's just going down. So Jim has a higher personal wealth than Abramovich. Could be okay backed with Ineos and a long-term strategy to phase out the Glazers. Nick, you've just completely answered my point. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Could be okay backed with Ineos and a long-term strategy to phase out the Glazers. What is the strategy, Nick? Could be okay backed by Ineos. You're guessing. I would not employ you, and I wouldn't work with you, Nick. I'm sorry. You're very, 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 very scary. So Jim has a higher personal wealth and could be okay backed with Ineos and a long-term strategy to phase out the Glazers. That's your strategy for Manchester United. Guesswork and hope. That's the other side. Many people might agree with Nick. It's an opinion. I'm not going to say any more. I think we've covered every reason why I think that approach is terrifying. Mark, I agree whoever wins there will be pros and cons of each. We don't want to be like Chelsea, PSG, as you said. We want to build our team. Who do you see taking the reins, says Tom. I'm still 50-50. I know they've got the leaks about Sir Jim and everything like that, but I'm still 50-50 on it. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't massively concerned. I think there's too many stories about Sir Jim and the Glazers to not think it might happen. But then Al Thani's very, very rich and is trying to buy all the clubs. I don't know. I think fundamentally it doesn't come down. I don't think it comes down to the Glazers thinking, do we want to stay or do we want to sell? They've made their mind up months ago. We just don't know whether we've been played or not. I'm 100% convinced that Joel and Avram are not sat there going, should I stay or should I go now? If I stay, there will be trouble. I don't think they're singing that all day. I think they knew from day one what they were doing. What we need to know is, were they ever selling or were they always staying? Because if they were always staying, it's Sir Jim. If they were selling, it's Qatar. What we don't know is what the plan was. Were they ever really for sale? Personally, I think that their sisters and brothers were always selling their shares and the Glazers needed a way to stay. And if they found it, it's Sir Jim. They were never selling the whole club. I know they said all options were on the table, but we'll have to wait and see. So Jim is the Titanic and the Glazers are the iceberg, says David. That's fantastic. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. I've enjoyed the show this morning because it's been more pragmatic. And I think that wherever you sit on this, and please don't go the opposite of me because you don't like the United stand. That really is the thickest thing in the world you can do. If there's a bridge and a crocodile-infested river and I walk across the bridge, don't swim because you just don't want to follow me across the bridge. You will get eaten. It doesn't matter whether you don't like my opinions. You can agree with the way that the club should go. And as I've said, I think that for me, you've got evidence against guesswork. You've got limitless against limited. You've got full ownership against God knows what. I can't back Sir Jim because he's done a deal with the Glazers. But I also can't back him because everything about his bid is murky and guesswork. And I can't sit here publicly and go, yeah, I quite like Sir Jim because he might get rid of the Glazers in 3 years. He might buy all of the club. He might do this. He might do that. That's why we got in trouble in 2005. Go with the evidence. I wish I had. I wish all the fan base had. The Glazers were bad news. Some fans knew it. Not enough were vocal about it. And we ended up where we are now, 20 years later. Whether you like Al Thani or not, he's done the statement. I'll buy all the club, I'll clear the debt, and I'll rebuild everything. I'm sorry, that's a full sale. What Sir Jim is offering, nobody can tell me. It's a guess. I didn't say it was my preferred outcome, saying it could be okay. Isn't all just speculation at this point? No, it's not, Nick. No. You need to do a bit of... I'm not calling you out, Nick. I just think you're not educated yourself on this. This is not speculation. There is an offer for a full sale where it will clear the debts and pump loads of money in. And then there is Sir Jim's deal, which is with the Glazers, and nobody really knows what will happen. Guesswork versus straight evidence. Make your choice. If Sir Jim Ratcliffe does obtain 50% of the club, would that still affect the European qualifications for United and Nice, says Justin? I don't know. It makes no sense for the Glazers to only sell a portion. With inflation and slow growth of the club without Qatar investment, their perceived value of the club will not be achieved, says Jack. And Mark, if they picked Sir Jim because it valued Man United higher, but now the share price is plummeting, doesn't it make more sense to go with Qatar, says L1. Well, the great thing about Sir Jim Ratcliffe is he's buying half of the club for $3 billion when the full value of the club isn't far off $3 billion. He's way overpaying. I mean, that's another fact. That's another thing that a business person will tell you. The value of Manchester United is plummeting by the day. The value of Man United is lower than $4 billion. In real terms, he's paying $3 billion for half of it. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video and subscribe. We've got Eric Ten Hag's press conference, which I believe is around 12:30. And then don't forget, it's Friday night. It's 8 o'clock. It's the United Stand Friday night 8 o'clock show. Looking forward to that as always. It's always a little bit more relaxed. Don't forget as well, if you want a bit of comedy in your life, I can't guarantee. Actually, it is quite funny. Even I think it's funny this week. New Driving with Goldbridge is out. It's only about 20 minutes long. Links in the video description and it's in the live chat. If you've never watched it before, you're missing out. It's a bit of a cult classic series. It's out. It's brand new. New Driving with Goldbridge. Links in the chat and the video description. I would love you to give it a watch and tell me what you think. Speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching.